I think you pull the curtain back, and in many ways, it's the anatomy of a story and the anatomy of a movement. It's sort of a kind of a modern day version of All the President's Men, but in this case, it's All the Predator's Enablers, right? And so, how was he protected for so long? Can you just, Jodi, tell us about some of the people and the forces that kept this guy's secret for so long?
Well, it's a great question because it's part of what we felt we had to get to the bottom of. Look, we don't know whether Harvey Weinstein is going to be convicted or not at this criminal trial that is set to begin in January. But we felt like we had the responsibility to dig deeper and to answer some of these moral mysteries. And his company protected him. He basically was able to use his company to both further his alleged predation and to cover up some of what he was doing. Some of the most esteemed and famous lawyers in America helped him. David Boies, who helped win gay marriage. Lisa Bloom, a famous feminist attorney who's known for being a kind of fighter for women, helped him beyond even what we had originally understood. Linda Fairstein, probably the most famous sex crimes prosecutor in the US, was on Weinstein's team. Part of what this book is about is the surprise of who helped and who hindered.
And what surprised you about those people? Did you know the extent of the protective web that surrounded this guy? Were you surprised?
Well, we had some glimpses of the activity of some of these figures who had been by Weinstein's side as he was trying to silence his accusers and push back the investigation, but we didn't know the whole picture. In fact, in the case of Lisa Bloom, she had long maintained that she was only aware that she crossed sides to work with Weinstein because she thought that he had only engaged in inappropriate comments towards women and that she wanted to help him apologize for his behavior. Well, in the course of reporting this book, we obtained confidential records in which she was basically spelling out all of the underhanded tactics that she was going to use to undermine his accusers, basically spelling out the much darker role that she played.
It wasn't just Lisa Bloom, it was also her mom, Gloria Allred, whose name has become synonymous with protecting and defending the victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Did that surprise you?
It really did, and
it's really surprised me.
It surprised the whole New York Times team, and we should explain that Gloria Allred played a different role than Lisa Bloom did, her daughter, in this whole story. You've got this superpowered mother-daughter feminist lawyer team, and Lisa Bloom, as Megan just explained, crossed lines to work with Weinstein. Gloria Allred didn't exactly do that. She did something else that, to be honest, most attorneys in this arena do. She did secret settlements, meaning that if a woman is sexually harassed and she goes to a lawyer and says, I need help, what that lawyer will often tell her is, well, going to court is really awful and you're going to lose your privacy, it'll take years, you may not win. Your best option is a secret settlement. And that means that the accuser pays the woman money and she has to keep everything confidential.
I also think that this gets into the nitty-gritty and the less glamorous part of being investigative reporters. I think people just think like you're ta-da, and these great, incredible stories, but they take hours and hours, weeks, sometimes months of working, winning people's confidence, getting sort of a whole train of individuals to help do this. Tell us a little bit about some of the biggest challenges in reporting this story.
Well, there was the fact that Megan and I did not know any actresses when we started, and we had these conversations that were sort of absurd in retrospect. We would sit around the New York Times investigative unit and say, okay, how do you get Gwyneth Paltrow's phone number? How do you get Uma Thurman's phone number? And we knew we couldn't go through their publicists or their agents because those people, they're paid protectors. And also the questions were too sensitive to ask them. And then we thought, okay, even if we could get those women's phone numbers and we called them, what would you say in the first 45 seconds on the phone to begin to win some trust, some confidence, some opening, given that everybody has been silent about this for so long?
How did you?
Well, so actually,
can you reveal your tricks?
I can because it's actually It really is the sort of core of our partnership. Megan and I did not really know each other before we started working on this. We
And now you share everything, including lip gloss.
That's
true.
Correct.
But Megan had recently come to the paper. We had met, and only I think spoken once or twice. But Rebecca Corbett, our editor, recommended that I call Megan. So Megan, who had done a lot of sex crimes reporting, said that sometimes the way she made the case to women, victims who were very scared on the phone, is she said, look, I can't change what happened to you in the past, but if we work together, we may be able to do something constructive here and help other people. And as soon as Megan said that, that line really resonated with me. I felt that it was what I had been looking for.
And I think especially with women. I mean, I think that for whatever reason, that women can sometimes be reluctant to do something that if they think it's just serving themselves. But that if it involves helping to protect other women, they're gonna reach down and find the courage to take that step.
I mean, what do you think was in the ether and in the culture that made this story explode? And
I think the reaction once the story was published did touch on that widespread anger about these allegations towards Trump. But I have to tell you that in those months of reporting, it cut in another direction, because we'd be on the phone with these women and we'd be trying to persuade them and give them the confidence to come forward. And they would say, Jodi, Megan, even if I do, it won't matter. Look at those women who came forward about Trump and he was elected anyway. So why could this possibly be worth it for me?
what did you think of Christine Blasey Ford?
I was so struck by how different the story was when you actually meet her and spend time with her and interview her. Megan did most of the interviewing, but I did a little bit too. And I think we all watched that woman on the public stage give that indelible testimony, but it was really just a few hours of her life. And the story we tell, the behind the scenes story here, is her journey to testifying and what happened afterwards. And what happened was so much more complicated. A lot of people think that, Christine Blasey Ford is like this flag-waving, Me Too'er who is willing to sacrifice everything to give this testimony that she wanted to take down a Supreme Court nominee. That's what some of the right says about her. And really what we found is that she was a reluctant figure in many ways. Her original intention was not to tell the whole world about this. She wanted to find a private way of intervening before Trump even chose Kavanaugh.
And it was also clear that while she kind of wavered in how she wanted to share this information, she felt like from the moment Kavanaugh had landed on the short list of potential Supreme Court nominees that she wanted to get this, she felt like it was her duty to get this information into the hands of the people who would be making that decision.
In closing, I'm curious to ask you all, sitting here now, how far have we come, really?
Everything has changed and nothing has changed. On the one hand, when you look at the sense of mass recognition we had in the fall of 2017, the sharing of stories, the display of accountability without precedent, all of these men being fired within a short space of time, the fact that corporations really are much more concerned about this than they used to be because they've seen that this kind of behavior can be a threat to the health of the corporation, the fact that in some cases laws and rules really have changed, the stigma has lifted somewhat, the sense of shame, all of that really feels like a substantial change. On the other hand, if you look at our basic laws and rules and systems, very little has shifted. It is just as hard, I think, to come forward with a complaint to an HR department now as it was 2 or 3 years ago. Also, if you look at this system of secret settlements that we discussed, those are still being signed every single day. And most of all, for low-income women, for a woman who's serving burgers for $10 an hour while being groped by her boss, has anything really changed for that woman in the last 2 years? I'm not really sure that it has. So I think we all have this question, what am I going to tell my grandkids or my great-grandkids about this period? Are we going to say, we lived through this sort of dramatic thing and then it petered out? Or are we going to be able to say, I was there when everything changed?